Moonprincess here with another video for you, and this time it's gonna be another fact video, just random weird stuff that I thought was interesting and that I kept on my computer in a Word document because I'm weird and I love learning weird information. So I think some of it I got from like science class or something, and I had to type it up because I was like, yes. Alright, well anyways, it's not that long. I'm just gonna do a couple, we'll see. But let's get started, okay? Alright. Our hairy ancestors had goosebumps to make them look bigger so they could ward off predators when frightened or in defense. A wood frog can hold its pee for up to 8 months, and the urine actually helps keep the animal alive while it hibernates. With special microbes in their gut that recycle the urea into nitrogen. Rabbits can't puke. It's just crazy, I never would have thought of that. Human bodies emit a small quantity of visible light, so everyone is literally glowing. A dentist invented cotton candy. His name was William Morrison. That's a terrible dentist. Thank you, but that's terrible. Marie Curie is the only person, last I heard anyways, to earn a Nobel Prize in 2 different sciences. Chewing gum boosts concentration. Also, you might notice that any sweat you produce right after a shower doesn't smell so bad. That's because your sweat itself isn't stinky. It's the bacteria on your skin that breaks the sweat down that causes the odor. Additionally, you'll find that the sweat on your arms and legs doesn't smell as much as your armpits. That's because sweat glands in your armpits secrete more protein into a dark, damp environment, which is the perfect place and food for bacteria. Fear of the number 13 is triskaidekaphobia. Sorry. $1 costs 5 cents to make. Sea lions can dance to a beat. Now, not all of this is like guaranteed accurate. I could be wrong, so keep that in mind. But a unicorn is the national animal of Scotland in Celtic mythology. The unicorn was a symbol of purity and innocence, as well as masculinity and power. Tales of dominance and chivalry associated with the unicorn may be why it was chosen as Scotland's national animal. Also, a dozen bodies were once found in Ben Franklin's basement. Ben supposedly ran an anatomy school in the basement of his London home. It was his friend William Hewson's anatomy school. During home renovation in 1998, they found a dozen bodies down there. Resurrection men delivered bodies from stolen graveyards. That's kind of hilarious. So yeah, resurrection men used to be a thing. They would like snatch bodies or, rob graves to obtain the bodies. oceans are some of the least explored areas of the planet because the extreme pressure, cold, and dark at these depths, only the very strangest of creatures can survive there. These include giant tube worms, vampire squids, goblin sharks, and viperfish with teeth so long that they can't close their mouths. Perhaps the strangest, though, is the barrel eye, a large fish with a completely transparent head. I also heard about this decorated war hero dog during World War II. His name was Rags. So during World War II, the U.S. Infantry, 1st Infantry Division, was not able to communicate with other troops due to shell fire and damaged phone wires. So Rags, which was a mixed breed terrier, he would carry messages from one division to the next, tucked into his collar. And when he passed at 20 years old in Maryland, he was buried with military honors. That is so cute. Super wholesome. Okay. Sorry, my nose is like itching because, I don't know, it's like a little dry. Studies show that showers spark creativity. So, fun fact. Now I'm not 100% sure on this fact, but I would be inclined to believe it. Anyways, feel free to fact check it. Abe Lincoln's bodyguard left his post at the theater to go for a drink. John Frederick Parker, he left for Star Saloon. And that's part of how he died, supposedly. I wouldn't be surprised. Children's medicine once contained morphine. I mean, I'm not surprised by this either, because there's lots of weird stuff like that from back in the day. But Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup had morphine. Great idea. Because everybody needs a little morphine. I'm just kidding. No. European ancestors were cannibals in 16th and 17th century. Cannibalism was common practice for medical purposes. It started with Egyptian mummies that were thought to have magical curative properties, and then they were ground up and put into many remedies. This idea kind of evolved, and human blood and fat were used in medical concoctions. Have a headache, crush a skull and make it into a tea, because that makes sense. Okay. Typhoid Mary infected more than 50 people cooking for them. A real historical person who became notorious in the 1900s, Irish woman Mary Mallon, I don't know, who immigrated to the U.S. in the 1880s. Though she had no symptoms of typhoid fever, she carried the bacteria in her blood and could pass it on to other people. Because no doctor could convince her that this was true, and she didn't feel sick, she insisted on working as a cook. During her career, she infected at least 51 people, 3 of whom died, before she was isolated in enforced quarantine for the last decades of her life. Sounds like a current problem we're having. Not funny, but kind of funny. Comic Sans font came from a comic book. I mean, I guess that makes sense, right? Harriet Tubman was the first woman to lead an armed assault. She planned and executed a number of raids and was known to carry a revolver for personal protection. She was a badass. Everyone's like, Underground Railroad. I'm like, nah. This woman was a badass. She led raids. She was in the thick of it. We downplay Harriet so much, it's not right. Anyways, according to the internet, I can't remember the exact article, I apologize. A baby puffin is called a puffling. Bow Street runners have been called London's first professional police force, sort of similar to thief takers, and this is true, and I love listening to books where they have Bow Street runners because it's awesome. It's just so cool. Anyways, okay. Marianne Cotton killed at least 20 people. I think it was 21. Her nickname was Black Widow. She killed several of her husbands for their life insurance, as well as 12 children via poison. I think all of it was via poison. Though she died for killing her stepson, she was hanged. But they were unable to prove in court that the other deaths were her fault, that she was responsible. So they got her with the one they could get her with. I believe it was arsenic. I'd have to double check. I'm pretty sure it was arsenic. I read some stuff on it. Okay. Let's see. Alright, so there used to be something called modesty boards in Victorian time. These boards would be nailed or propped up close to the ground to ensure that women's ankles were not visible when they were seated. And that was to, yeah. Meat mask. If you read one 19th century beauty column, you might try binding slices of raw beef to your face at night in order to prevent wrinkles and promote a youthful, radiant complexion. I believe they also put cyanide or something in people's beauty products. I'm sure that's on this list. It could I mix up cyanide and arsenic, so I may have to correct myself. We'll see. Okay. Bottling tears. It wasn't just Queen Victoria mourning her husband. Mourning was a serious business in Britain during the Industrial Revolution. Mourning women wore beautiful, elaborate jewelry that incorporated onyx or jet, and even braided hair from the deceased. Tears cried for the deceased would be collected in bottles. Plus, if you were a bachelor who didn't leave a widow behind, you could always hire a local blonde woman to wail at your grave and make it seem like you were adored. This is completely true. There's some really interesting parlor games that were popular with Victorians. Snapdragon, which is when they'd have like rum raisins on fire in a bowl, and they would eat them while they were still on fire. I don't know. I feel like I would really enjoy myself playing that. I think it was kind of combined with something else, but that was generally the gist of the game. I think you were trying to get something from the bowl. I don't remember. Wealthier families used to dress their young children mainly in white, frilly dresses, regardless of gender, and both boys and girls would wear bonnets with ribbons as well. I love it. Going to the crapper. By 1870, thanks to Thomas Crapper, most wealthy homes had an indoor water closet, but otherwise the Industrial Revolution didn't quite make it to old school bathrooms, which were far from toilets we use these days. Taking a bath involved a maid dragging buckets of hot water up the stairs to the tub, but by the time it got there, it was usually cold because many Victorians subscribed to the belief that being cold caused illness and possibly death. They usually just took sponge baths and covered their BO with perfume. I'm petting a dog, so that's the noise. Anyways, consuming poison. In the 19th century, arsenic wasn't regarded as a poison the same way it is today. Amazingly, women would use it as an age-fighting cosmetic. See, I told you. Arsenic. I'm not sure if I said cyanide, but it's arsenic that they used in is the problem. It took many cases of illness and quite a few fatalities before they figured it out. That it was toxic, I mean. Let's see. Alright, Chinese police use geese squads. You've heard of police dogs, but police geese. As of 2013, 12 police stations in a rural area of China have begun to use geese as sentries. I don't know if this is still a thing, but it was in 2013. They are alert animals, and as you probably know, can create a lot of noise and commotion, which creative Chinese law enforcement officers are taking advantage of. While this trend has yet to spread throughout China, Dongguan police claim that the geese have already stopped at least one theft. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want more fact videos, because they're some of my favorite ones to do, and I will get creative and